So I wasn't able to come live yesterday. I was trapped into work. Same thing is almost happening today. So I've stolen a few minutes between getting off work and picking my boys from school. So I had planned to talk about this, but since it's brief, I could actually go with it. Driving on Ugandan roads, just for us to be familiar. I know a lot of people that have phobia with driving on the road. Like driving on Ugandan roads is almost like surviving. It's a skill that if you get, you can survive anywhere. So I'll just briefly go through what it takes for you to drive on Ugandan roads and the types of people that you have to tolerate as you drive. So I'll just shift this to the front. Yeah. So on Ugandan roads, we have a number of people that cannot be ignored. They are private drivers like you, like me, the private driver. We have taxi drivers. Yeah, like that taxi is right in front of me. Then we have border guys. Then we have Sinotruck drivers. The Sinotruck just cornered on the left. So it's important for you to understand how to deal with these different kind of people as you drive. Whether you've driven for a number of years, yes, hi Malik. Whether you've driven for a number of years or you just started driving, there are some things you might not know about these people as you drive on the road. The most dangerous are the taxi drivers and the border guys. But the border guys are very, very, very dangerous. Of course, there are also traffic officers. If you can see, they just stopped that truck in front there. So they are looking for their next prey. Yeah, and he just looked at me like, oh my God, I wish I had gotten him. Anyway, so the kinds of people that, see the border man. So the borders are the most dangerous people that you have to look out for as you drive on the road. But I'll give you some tips. Majority of us did not actually go to driving schools to learn. Like me, I had to actually go and sit in a theory class for driving so that I learned. You see the taxi drivers, you see how they are driving? I'll just corner, you see? This guy has just created a second line, forcing me off the road. So it's important to know, one of the virtues that you're going to have as a driver on Ugandan roads is patience. You will have to learn to be very, very patient. Yes, the Harrier 2.2cc. Okay, I'm going to talk about that, my brother. So I'm going to talk about the Harrier, don't worry. As you drive on Ugandan roads, and any road, basically, you just have to be patient. But Uganda, you have to be too patient. Why? Reason number one, if you're a private car owner, majority of the time you're liable to damages done on the road, on other road users, be it lorry drivers, be it taxi guys, be it border guys, be it cyclists. If you drive a private car, majority of the time you will end up paying for damages. Why? I think everyone, including traffic officers, they all assume that you're richer than the other person, a taxi driver or a border guy or a cyclist or a lorry driver or even a government vehicle. They assume that a private vehicle owner is richer, so they'll try to find ways of making you pay. Okay? Yeah. So you have to be patient. Then the other thing that I realized most people don't know is that when you're driving, there is an imaginary line in the middle that separates you who is driving on the left from the person that is driving on your right. That's the person going in the opposite direction where you're going. Always have that imaginary line in your head as you drive, okay? And that will keep you from a lot of trouble. But that doesn't mean that when someone crosses to your side, when someone crosses to your side, move away for them to go. They just want to get problems from you. So that's also the kind of thing you have to learn. Move out of the way when omularu. Yeah, I know Ugandan roads are katogo, seriously. But we have to live with them. The other thing that I've realized that people don't know how to do is you guys don't know how to indicate on time. You see, when you're going to corner either left or right, you need to calculate about 500 meters, okay, and then engage the indicator so that everyone that is behind you can get time to actually see the indicator, and they can also get time to brake. I don't want you to imagine that everybody's brakes work as good as yours. Most of the vehicles on the road and motorcycles have brakes that are not functioning, so you have to imagine that the person in front of you has faulty brakes all the time. So you have to always give them time and space to engage their brakes and to see your indicator. Now you see this road. This is the road that comes from Kumbuzi Gayaza Road heading to Chanja. Okay. Now this road doesn't have the middle line, but you need to always imagine that there is a middle line that separates you from the other people that are driving on the other side. You also have to respect the zebra crossing. I've realized majority of drivers don't actually respect zebra crossings. Border guys, taxi drivers, lorry drivers, let them do what they do. Sometimes even military guys and government guys. But you, as a person that is civilized, that knows, because imagine you are the one crossing the road at zebra crossing, and then someone actually comes and knocks you off the road. So respect the zebra crossings. Yeah. So how dangerous are taxi drivers? Let me just talk to my brother here that asked about the Toyota Harrier Kaundo. You see, the Kaundo is just like this Kruger that is just going in front of me. Also, there are those Kaundos that are 2.2 cc. Okay, because the Harrier has a 2.2 cc and 3.0 cc. Okay, now they are both good cars. The difference is in the power the engine gives you and the amount of fuel that it takes. Most of the other things are almost the same. Okay, now the Harrier will have the same body, but you remember when I talked about the Fielder and I told you that the Toyota Fielder 1.8 cc and the Wish 1.8 cc are basically the same thing. The difference is that the Toyota Wish engine carries a bigger body and it carries more people, so it might consume more fuel than the Fielder that has the same engine capacity. So the same thing happens with Harrier. So the Harrier that has 2.2 cc has a smaller engine. Ideally it should consume less fuel. Okay, so when that Harrier is actually empty, it might consume less fuel. Okay, I don't want to guarantee that, because walk to half the people that are driving those Harriers and none of them actually knows, because I've not driven a Harrier before, but I've tried to talk to people that have Harriers and none of them will actually tell you how many kilometers a liter of theirs goes. Okay, maybe one of my guys here that follows me will be the first. We do the test, me and them, when they buy the Harrier, we sit in and then we actually test how far a liter of fuel can take you. But ideally a 2.2 cc Harrier Kaundo or Harrier Ordinary should consume less fuel than the 3.0 when empty, when it's just the driver or when it's just the set number of people sitting in the car. Okay, but I want you to consider factors like which tires does the car have, because some people buy a Harrier and they buy a bigger tire size. Okay, now when you buy a bigger tire size, the car has to, the wheel has to go around more times than it's planned to go in order to finish the entire tire. I don't know if you get me, the circumference of the tire. If for example a car has to have a 14-inch tire, okay, and you put a 16-inch tire, the 16-inch tire has a bigger circumference. Do you know what that means? It means that the wheel has to go around many more times, okay, many more times than when it was a small tire. So ideally that will increase. So when you buy a Harrier, you need to figure out what tires are supposed to go on that car and put the exact tires. Okay, ideally the 2.2 cc should consume less, but this is what I've heard about the Harrier. The 2.2 cc is a weaker engine on the Harrier body. Okay, the 3.0 cc has sufficient power to pull the Harrier body. Okay, that's the difference. So you may actually find that a car, the engine that is supposed to take less fuel takes more, because you have to accelerate more to get enough power out of the engine to pull the body as sufficiently as you want. But if you can handle a car that seemingly should be powerful but is not powerful, and you drive it with patience, the Harrier 2.2cc will be better in terms of saving fuel. So now you've just asked, driving from if you're driving from Namugongo to town every day, 2.2cc, you will be consuming about 20 to 35,000 shillings, depending on the condition of the engine, of course. 20 to 35,000 shillings. Why am I saying that? Because an auntie of mine lives in Namugongo, near the shrine. She drives the Sienta and she uses 15,000, and the Sienta is 1.5cc. Now on top of the 1.5cc, add 700cc. Okay, 700cc. On top of that, add the traffic jam. Okay, on top of that, add the fact that you have not talked about Kaundo. So I'm assuming you're going to buy the ordinary Harrier. So if you're going to buy the ordinary Harrier, it has the ordinary engine. The ordinary engine actually consumes more fuel than the VVTi, which the Sienta has. So considering that, I'm assuming that it will actually consume 25 to 30,000. Okay, now if the gearbox is perfect, like it changes gears the way it's supposed to, you're on board. If the tires have tread, they are not worn out, you're still on point. If the car still has the right tire size, you're still good. Okay, so if the engine has good plugs and they burn fuel properly, you're still good. Those are the things you really have to check out. You have to check the air cleaner as well. Okay, yeah, I think if you check those things and they're all good, yeah, just consider using at the current fuel price between 25,000 to 35,000. Okay, if it consumes more, then you should recheck those things. Like I said in my previous broadcast, that when you buy a Toyota or a Nissan or any other car, I advise you to go to the country distributor of that brand of vehicles and buy plugs from them. It's expensive in the short run, but very cheap in the long run. And I would also tell you that I personally take only Shell fuels. Shell or Total. Shell or Total. They are very good for the engine. Now, I normally tell people the story of how I started taking Shell. I used to drive my Corona Chivina UAB when I was at campus. So this one time, I go to Shell Bakuli. I used to live in Mutumbe and I used to go to Mook. So I go to Shell Bakuli and I refuel 20k in my Chivina. Trust me, the moment they put the fuel, the sound of the engine changed. That's how I became a Shell fanatic. So, but sometimes I experiment with Total just to see, because of the fuel prices. Right now, Total the Total price is below Shell price by like 20 or 30 shillings. And when you're taking fuel tank, that could do a bit of a difference. So, Harrier, overall, the driving experience is very okay. Maintenance-wise, like I said, cars beyond 2000cc rarely break down. So yes, you can be assured that you will drive your Harrier Kaundo. If you service it on time, the engine will not break down. If it doesn't overheat, the engine will not break down. Okay, so just keep servicing it properly. The Harrier Kaundo will rarely break down. The bushes, it's normal service. Like you can hit a pothole and the bush gets broken, the shock gets broken. But you need to know that it's very expensive to repair the suspension of a Harrier. Okay, so overall, I want you to understand that the Harrier is a luxury vehicle. Okay, it's a luxury vehicle, just like the Kruger or the Nissan. What's this car called? It's just actually the Nissan X-Trail. Those are usually luxury. So when people buy them, they just want to sit up and enjoy the ride. Okay, they are very comfortable, but not very friendly on the pockets. Okay, so but a Harrier overall has a very good driving experience. I would advise that if you want to buy a Harrier, you buy it as a second car, especially if you're a young person like me and you don't have a lot of investment to refuel that car. Buy it as a second car. Drive it to the beach, drive it for your reunions, drive it for parties. I don't know if you get me, but if you're going to be driving an everyday car, it might end up eating into your savings. Okay, so I wouldn't actually advise you to buy the Harrier as an everyday drive. Because imagine if you're using 25,000 to 35,000 daily on fuel. So how much are you making every day? Of course, there are young men and women that make a lot of money daily. But even if you made that much money, right now in the fuel prices like this, and chances are high that the fuel prices will not go down. Okay, so I would advise that you buy a smaller car. So you asked the same person that asked about the Harrier, my brother Kasozi. You asked then what about the Mark II Grand. Now that one I highly recommend. It's 2.0. Of course, the consumption doesn't go as low as the Sienta, but it doesn't go as high as the Harrier. Okay, the comfort of the Mark II is still good. I drove it for a year. And the consumption, make sure you buy the Mark II that has the beams engine, what they call the beams engine. It's VVTi, and it's very good on the fuel if maintained properly. Now, I advise that immediately when you buy it like this. By the way, I don't promote Toyota Uganda. No, I am not part of Toyota Uganda at all. I hear they even changed the name over to Sifao. I don't know, but I'm not part of Toyota Uganda. But it's just something I'm recommending out of experience that has worked for me. The moment you buy your car, if it's a Toyota, head out to Toyota Uganda. Don't go to any other branch of Toyota Uganda. Go to the head office, which is at Ginger Road. That's where I normally buy my spare, and buy the plugs. Just go with your chassis number. They'll ask you for the chassis number, and then when you give your chassis number, then they give you the right plugs for your car. Okay, so the Mark II is very good. I used to drive it from Kasangati to town and back. That is in the lockdown 2020, and I would use about 10k go to town and back. But I before that I used to drive a Vitz and I would use 13,000. Okay, I don't know how that came coincidentally, but it happened that I was using less fuel in a Mark II. Traffic lights, you remember the rules they told us? Orange, red. Okay, now I've seen people that don't know how to use these traffic lights. When there are two lanes, you see there is a Subaru right on my left there. Okay, this is a 2-lane road, but it has 3 signs. But there are normally arrows on the road to show you. Always make sure that you go in the lane that has arrows of the direction you're taking. Okay, if you go to the wrong lane, you're bringing commotion, you're bringing trouble for other people. And in case someone knocks you or scratches your car when you're in the wrong lane, trust me, you will end up paying them. Okay, yeah. So let me go back to the Mark II. So the Mark II is very good, the Grand. Make sure you get a beams engine though, because it's the 2.0. Give it the right plugs, give it the right air cleaner, and then give it the right tire ties. Normally when people buy Mark IIs, because the Mark IIs are rear wheel drives, they think that when you put bigger tires, it will not skid when you're in a slippery environment. But it will still skid. It will still skid. So I would recommend put the right tire size, because when you buy a car, you get the logbook. And in the logbook, it is clear that this car is supposed to have this tire size. Go and buy that tire size. Okay? And for you to enjoy the Mark II as well, make sure that the rear tires are always having tread. Okay? Otherwise, you will suffer a lot. The only disadvantage with the Mark II, in my experience, was that in Kuba Wetonya, I used to live down here. Anyone say Wasemba. Okay? That's why I shifted to a far away place, because in Kasanga, where I used to live, it was near town. But where I was living in a motokatetu. Anyway, in Kuba Wetonya, the Mark II, if you live Wanseri, the way I used to live, find a parking near the road so that you can walk there and get to work. Otherwise, sometimes you may not get to work. Also, when you buy the Mark II, if you can rent in places where you have tarmac, okay, and pavers, please shift, okay, because there is no 4-wheel drive Mark II. But overall, me, I found that I did not really repair anything on my Mark II for the year I drove it. Yeah, I did not repair anything, but it was a very comfortable car. Okay, my wife loved it. It had speed, and that Mark II really, it's very hard for you to overturn. You see how cars overturn? The Mark II is very sturdy on the road. Okay, so it's very hard for you to overturn. And the people that overturn in Mark IIs are very poor drivers. There is a time I was driving from from Kayunga. I was heading to that side where there is St. Kalemba, and my back tire, one of my back tires actually burst. I didn't notice it was raining, so I kept driving. So I start hearing things. I start hearing I start hearing something doing quack, 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 quack. And I think maybe the engine has blown. So I stop and get out. It was really raining. And when I get out, I realized the tire had burst. And I had driven for like about 3 kilometers. Very fast, by the way. It was a highway, it was raining, and there were no cars. So I was going really fast. So that's how good a Mark II is on the road. I did not overturn. I did not feel it was very steady on the road. So I put a spare tire and I drove to the nearest town and got a solution. So the Mark II, it will be very comfortable if you love comfort. And from your preference, the way you talked about the Harrier Kaundo, I'm thinking you're the kind of person that loves comfort. So the Mark II is not as high as the Kaundo, but it will be as comfortable as the Kaundo, especially if you give it good shocks. Make sure you give it good shocks. Give it the suspension system. Make sure it's in the right order. And I would also recommend that when you buy the Mark II, also make sure that the AC works. Okay. So, bro, you said you worked with Uber before. Can you please talk about it? For a person like me who is planning to join Uber, Bolt with a Paso 1.5cc as a full-time job, is it profitable? Okay, I'm going to talk about that as well. So, yeah, the Mark II, I would also recommend that you get one that has AC working. Yeah, and I've had people say that AC consumes fuel. Now, AC consumes fuel if you don't know how to use AC. I personally use AC in my car, and the only reason AC consumes fuel is because when you put AC, okay, the engine is loaded. When the engine is loaded, it feels like it has lost power. Now, majority of the people, when they feel this, they accelerate, they over accelerate. When you do this, the engine uses more power. And when the engine starts using more power, obviously it consumes more fuel. Okay? So if you learn how to balance your acceleration when you're using AC, you will definitely have no problem. All right? So especially in cars that go beyond 1.5cc, it's only the small, very small cars where you will see a very significant increase in fuel consumption, because the engine is already weak. So when you load the AC, the engine has to use more power, meaning it uses more fuel. Okay? But if you're driving a car that is 2.0cc and above, normally it's already using a lot of power. So when it's using a lot of power, you don't have to accelerate. Yeah, I have to drive 10 kilometers, less than 10 kilometers here. This is where my kids go to school. So I'm driving slow and slow and slow to make sure, oh, we love our kids. Yeah, so anyway, the Mark II, my brother, I highly recommend, go and buy. But make sure you get it inspected. Okay? Make sure you get that car inspected thoroughly. Get it inspected thoroughly to make sure that it's in good condition. Yeah, just a minute. Chief, how are you? What's the time mzee? Kale se nsaba mumpitirako. Kale kwa sawa kuba simu. So like I was saying, the Mark II, I would definitely, if I had a chance, I would buy it again, because it's a very nice car. I enjoy driving it. I didn't prepare anything. I didn't really repair anything. Just make sure the tires are there, especially the back tires, because normally they get worn out because of the skidding when it's slippery. And also when traffic officers stop you, they look at the back tires, they know that's where the problem is. The other thing that you'll get trouble with, especially a first-time driver, the Mark II is very long. It's not your ordinary cars. It's not a Primo or something. It's long in front. It's long behind. So the timing when you're turning, you need to practice that a lot before you go to the road, so that you don't actually scratch other people's cars. Other than that, the Mark II, just buy, but get it inspected. Make sure it doesn't have very serious accident, because most of those Mark IIs have been involved in accidents. Most of them. It's just that some workshop guys know how to repair those damages, and sometimes you will not know. But make sure you get it checked properly, and then if you find that it satisfies you, make sure also the engine doesn't consume fuel and it doesn't bring back make sure the engine doesn't consume oil, tenure oil, okay, that and that the oil doesn't come back to the spark plugs, because if any car has oil leakages or oil spillages that come back to the spark plug, then you will always be replacing plugs, and that's an expense that I wouldn't wish anyone to be in, because you'll be buying plugs of 80,000 every 3 months, and that's not a very good thing. So you have to inspect that. Also the Mark II lights, sometimes they get very old, so also get that checked out. But other than that, check the traffic fines, because abasajja Mark II amanyi okuvuga speed. Remember, they are very fast, so someone will drive fast and they'll get like 10 fines of overspeeding, of driving poorly. They are almost, some Mark II drivers are almost like Subaru drivers, so they get fined, okay, a lot. Yeah, but other than that, Mark II is highly recommended. You go and buy your car and enjoy. Yeah, but like I said, if you need assistance selecting and checking one, I'm available. I can help you at a fee, of course. Yeah, but you can choose either. If you're not really concerned about the fuel, just go ahead and buy the Harrier 2.2cc. The difference is 200cc, okay, and then you are very comfortable. Yeah, thanks Robert, and thanks guys for watching, all of you. Thank you very much. So just a moment. So agenze banana kamulindeko neyanze. Yeah, so Johnny, you asked if Uber is profitable. Uber used to be profitable. Uber used to be very profitable by then. For the people that joined Uber before, they made a lot of money and even bought cars. A guy would join driving another person's car and even buy another car. That's how serious that thing was. But that was only because Uber used to give a lot of bonuses. You know, those promotional things, like you join and they tell you every hour you drive, we top up 7k. If you drive for 10 hours, we give you 50k. So the guys actually collected a lot of money and bought cars. But later on, most of them actually dropped out. Why? Because the promotional time ended for Uber, and then it went to normal rates, where they tell you that Uber charges people 5,000 per kilometer. Okay, yet at the time, I think when I was driving, a liter was at around 2,000, 3,000 or 200. Okay, so you can imagine, you're not only buying fuel, you have to repair the car, you have to wash the car, you have to eat, you have to buy airtime to call these people. So if they're charging 5,000 a kilometer, yet you also have to drive from where you are to go pick the client, you get. So in a way, it ended not being as profitable, especially for people that were not driving their own cars. For those that were driving their own cars, because I was driving my own car, it was okay. But even majority of them were not doing it full time. You'd get off work and then do a Uber in the evening, okay? So it was okay. You do a Uber in the evening, and then you get some car 30k or 50k on top of the money you made, okay? But even then, you would work up to like midnight, and then in the end, it ended up not being very safe, because some people would drive robbers. You go to drop someone at their place, and then they rob you clean, okay? Some guys would drive chicks who had jealous boyfriends. The Uber drops the chick at the home, and then the boyfriend or husband comes and starts destroying the car, thinking you're a boyfriend. So there are so many things that happened at night that were not very very pleasant for people that wanted to do Uber. But overall, me, I would recommend that if you're going to do Uber, don't think about it as a full-time thing. Well, if it works out, you can do it full time. But if it doesn't work out, consider having it as a part-time thing. That's something probably you do over the weekend, or or something you do in the evening after work. Okay? Oh yes, silence. I'm doing something here. Okay? No. You need to be silent, please. Yeah. Yes, we are going. So, but Uber overall, you can make daily food. If you have your car and currently you're unemployed or your business is not doing very well because currently the economy is not very good, and the economy is not very well, is not doing very well, and businesses are struggling. So if your business is struggling, you can actually add Uber on top of the gigs that you do and get some money. With Uber, you cannot fail to get daily food. The 10K, 20K you can get. Yes? Yes, I'm working.
You're working?
Yes. So, but other than that, if you're thinking about Uber as a full-time gig, I wouldn't recommend. So boys, how are you?
Fine.
Good. So I wouldn't recommend that you do it as a full-time gig. I would think that you think about it, especially there are times you're going to drive that car and fail to raise money to actually repair it. That's why I'm saying it should be a part-time gig. Yeah. So Mazda Tribute. They're not very common. So Ivan, you're asking about the Mazda Tribute. Now, I'll be very honest. If you like a car, you've sat in it and it's very comfortable. But then when you go to the road, there are not so many that you look at. It's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. We normally have something that we say with my friends that emoto kamukisa. You can get a car and it works out for you when hundreds of people have had the same car and it did not work out for them. But if I were you, I wouldn't put my chances of owning my good car and enjoying it to chance. Okay? The Mazda Tribute, yeah, I talked about the Mazda Demio the other day. Okay? And I was telling the person that wanted to buy the Demio that I think it was Malik. Yeah, I was telling him that if you really want to buy something that looks like a Demio Mazda, look for a Toyota alternative. And that's the same thing I'm going to tell you. With the Tribute, just count to yourself, how many have you seen on the road? Oh, and let me break it down. How many Mazda Tributes have you seen on the road between Monday and Friday? I bet we will both agree that the times that you see the Mazda Tribute, it's on weekend. I bet sometimes even you, when you sit in it, it's on the weekend. There is a reason for that. First of all, Mazdas in general are not very easy to maintain. Okay? They're expensive to maintain. The spares, first of all, are not as common as Toyota, which makes them expensive. Also, the mechanics themselves don't know how to repair the Mazdas. Okay? They don't. Which makes it very. So let me just show you a signpost so that when you see it, you don't set a wajida. But you see that blue signpost there, that one, yeah, it means you can go either left or right, but if you're headed in that direction. And there is another blue signpost there where the cars coming from down just stand from. Yeah, that car one. It just means you cannot go in the lane below. I've seen people make those mistakes. They look very simple. And some of these driving school guys where people go, they're after making money, so they will not teach you those things. They will teach you the basics of put on a seat belt. They'll teach you here, the brakes are here, the handbrake is here, but they don't teach you those things. Yeah, so the Mazda Tribute, it's a very comfortable car, no doubt, but it might take your money away from you. You may go broke trying to keep the car on the road, because first of all, the Mazda Tribute, you know, when you buy a car, you need to always remember as a young person that if I get to a point and I want to sell it, what happens? How many times have you had someone saying, I want to buy a Mazda Tribute? Really, how many times? I bet never. It might be that you're even the first person who is saying, Yagara Mazda Tribute, because you sat in it and it's comfortable. Not so. So you can buy it if you really want it, but you have to know that in case you buy that car and it gets a problem, you know, with Toyotas it can get a problem and you sell it to someone and they don't even know until like a week later that the car has a problem. But with Mazdas, people don't really like them even. So you may end up not being able to sell your car when you have a problem. So you end up having it muruja, nefida, or you leave it in a garage and it gets rotten from there. Okay? So you need to be very careful. So the Mazda, buy it only if you really want it, if you really believe that you can stomach fixing a very expensive car to fix or to maintain. Other than that, if you look at the Mazda Tribute, it means you might drive the Toyota Kruger or the Harrier, okay, or the RAV4. Get an alternative from those Toyota alternatives. That's my recommendation. You don't have to take it, but from experience, I think I've seen like 50 Mazdas Tributes. The Tributes I've seen like 50, if they are not the same that I see, and then 2 of them grounded in the garages in one day here. Okay, so I'd be careful while buying that Mazda. Mazda generally, or any car that is not Toyota in Uganda, is quite something. But I'll very soon I'll give you cars that you can actually buy that are not Toyotas, and you have a very peaceful life. So until I get another question, I beg to go back to my subject of how to keep safe on these Ugandan roads when you're driving, because it's a skill. The roads themselves are very small, Bufunda, okay? They are very small and they have a lot of potholes. They have a lot of unnecessary humps, okay? And they have taxi drivers and border guys. You see borders, there's a way border guys drive. They drive like they have an appointment with you, that at exactly 51 seconds past 1 minute of 3 o'clock, I'll go in front of you abruptly, so you have to brake. So that's how they drive. And it's very dangerous for you, not for them, because if you accidentally knock a border guy down, it will not matter whether they are in problem, unless you have a father or an uncle who is a general or a senior police officer. You're going to pay them. Majority of the time you will pay the border guys. So you have to be very careful when you're driving around border guys. Okay? Then the other thing you have to know, that as you're driving, you need to leave a very big distance between you and the car in front of you. About a minimum of like 3 meters. A minimum of 3 meters. Why? You give space for that person in case the car rolls back and comes back to you. You're giving them space to roll back and they don't knock you. You're also giving yourself space in case your brakes fail. You will not knock them. That is very important. No. Yeah, not 3 meters. You make it 1 meter, okay? Because 1 meter, that is like 3 feet. That is very small, a small distance. 1 meter, which is 3 feet. Okay, now if you want to know what 3 feet is, for us who have rented or who are renting, we know that a standard bedroom is 10 feet by 10 feet. A standard room, if you're renting a room or 2 rooms, and each room, and you're renting at around 150, that standard is about 10 by 10 feet. Okay, so 10 feet, just get a quarter of that. That's the distance you're supposed to give yourself and the car in front of you. Okay, so but be careful. Even you see there are vehicles that you look at and you know maybe this should not be on the road, that are very old. Those ones, give yourself a very big distance between you and them, because they leave you with the car, you can't even recoup the money to repair your car because the car is too old. No one is even willing to buy. Okay, border guys, always anticipate a border guy coming in front of you as you drive on the road. Always anticipate a border guy coming in front of you accidentally. Okay, someone is asking about the NUA. I want to talk about that briefly. Always anticipate a border guy coming in front of you accidentally or abruptly. How do you avoid such I would say silly accidents? One, you make sure that your brakes are tip-top condition. Make sure you maintain your braking system. Make sure the cylinder is okay. Make sure the back brake pads, if you're using the ones that have drums, Those are the ones that normally fail. Majority of cars in Uganda, the back tires have drums, not the discs. The front tires, of course, have discs. Those ones you can see when the brakes are worn out. But for those where you cannot see the drums, make sure the brakes are tip-top. Make sure they are in tip-top condition, so that in case you run into a problem, the brakes at least will not fail. Okay, that way you will avoid running into problems with border guys and taxi guys. You know, taxi guys also have another problem, and taxi guys never have money to repair cars. Even if he's in the problem, you know, you can run into a problem with someone who can actually repair your car. Taxi guys don't have money. Okay, they never really have money, so you don't want to run into border guys and taxi guys. Some of the border guys, they don't even have to tell you they don't have money. They look to not have money. You get you know, when they tell you that someone has money, if they dress poorly, you can see from their skin that they have money. You can see from the way they smell, you can smell that they have money. Some border guys, you look at them and you know this one tiny seat. So that's why you don't want to run into problems with them. Actually, sometimes when a border guy scratches me, I just drive away, because you're going to waste 30 minutes that you would have used to go and do your job, arguing with the border guy that will end up not giving you the money. You'll even take him to police, and police gets money out of you, and you don't get money out of the border guy. So you want to try as much as possible and stay out of trouble with border guys. Taxi guys, now you've seen most taxis, they're in conditions where they should not be driven on the road, and you expect such a guy to pay you when they damage your car? No, they will not pay you. So you see, fuel is at 6,620. Yeah, so you need to be also, the other thing, for the people that drive these days, you need to know, you see those cameras the police has? Those cameras record your traffic offenses. Now, these days, what traffic officers do is they go in their camera feeds and they look at which car did which offense, and they write you a ticket without you knowing. I'm sure you heard of the published list. So if you have driven badly around those cameras before, just know they might publish you in the next division publication, telling you to go pick your penalty at police. Yeah. So those cameras, avoid driving poorly, overtaking in the wrong places, knocking people and running. When the cameras are seeing, the traffic police will look for you, or they will publish you. And once they publish you, just know those guys have you on their mobile apps. So they will be waiting for you. You don't want to run into trouble. So you will survive on the road if you know that happens. Okay? Also, you have to know how to drive over the humps. Humps are the #1 killer of bushes and the suspension system. Because will be hump. Don't be like the government guys. The people that drive government vehicles, they are not the ones that repair. That's why the government vehicle do brr. Now for you have to go a little slower. Okay? Aha. Very good question, Dennis. So you need to be very careful about that. Taxi guys, just know when you're driving in Kampala, a taxi guy can decide to turn whenever. He can actually decide to stop and get a passenger at any moment. So you need to be very careful when you're driving behind taxi drivers. In front of them, still be as careful as you'd be with any other driver, because they really make mistakes when they're behind you. But they make mistakes and make you make mistakes when they're in front of you. Okay? So someone has asked me about the NUWA 2000 model. Now, let me tell you something about NUWAs. Unless it's a VVTi engine, which is the newer model, I think 2007 and above, the newer models, those are VVTIs. But unless and even the VVTIs, they still consume a little fuel, probably because the owners don't really know how to maintain them. They don't give them the right plugs and all. But the NUWA 2000 model has an ordinary engine. I'm going to do a review one of these days this week. I've been very busy, but I'm going to go and do a video this week and upload it about a NUWA, and you'll see that the engine that is normally in the NUWAs, the 2000 and before models. So the 2000 model NUWA has an ordinary engine. Okay, it rarely breaks down. The NUWA is a fighter. No wonder there were so many on the road. Now I want you to note one thing, that if you see a car in abundance of the road, it means 1, it has good resale value. 2, it never breaks down. Okay, it breaks down, but it rarely breaks down. Okay. 3, it does the purpose that it was bought for. If people buy it for their families, to drive their families around as a family car, it means it serves the purpose. If people drive it, let's say for Uber, just know then it serves the purpose of Uber. If people drive it for luxury, like the Harrier, it serves the purpose. Now, the Toyota Nua, most people that bought the Nua, they bought it as a family car. People that have 4 or more kids, or let's say 3 or more kids, and their wife and the maid, okay, those people would buy that car. And also people that are normally special hire drivers also bought the Nua, okay. Now, of course, when the Toyota Wish came, they shifted to the Wish because it takes the same number of people and consumes less fuel and looks better basically. And then when the Alphard came, some people shifted from Nua to Alphard because basically it looks better, right? Yeah, it looks more luxurious for passengers that want to hire that car. But the Toyota Nua serves the purpose. If you are buying it for family, I would recommend that as you buy the Nua, make sure the AC works, because remember it doesn't have the slide windows like the taxis. So when the people sit behind, they are basically wrapped in there, okay. So you want to buy a car that has AC working, okay. Then if you don't want to spend fuel on AC, you're going to want to buy one that has you call it a sunroof here, where you can open and then air comes from outside, and then they have enough aeration. Now the only problem with the sunroof is when it's a lot of sunshine, the sunroof actually doesn't serve the purpose then. It's only bringing in heat. So the AC is still better. The other problem with the sunroof is that sometimes it gets damaged and it leaks and water starts coming into the car, and that's why people don't want sunroofs. In fact, some older cars that have sunroofs, the sunroofs are really blocked, so you can no longer open them. But overall, the Nua, I have like 3 friends that are driving Nuas up to now. The only complaint they have is that it consumes a lot of fuel, according to them. But still, I'll tell you that some people don't know how to maintain their cars. Like, you'll ask a person, when did you last change plugs? And they'll tell you, 2015, yeah, I went to the mechanic, we bought plugs. I've been checking, and the mechanic was telling me, Teziri Bubi. When the mechanic tells you Teziri Bubi, it means you should probably change the plugs. Okay? So, the plugs is number 1 in making cars consume fuel. Number 2, if you buy a newer 2-wheel drive, it means majority of the time, especially when you're in slippery places, it will skid, and when that happens, you will be forced to over accelerate. Now, when you over accelerate, they basically use a lot of fuel, okay, and you don't want to do that. So I would also recommend that you buy a 4-wheel drive newer, okay. That will give you more comfort, more peace when you're driving, even in the places that are slippery. But you make sure that the diff is in good condition, okay. Most of, actually, even the Mark II, if you're buying a car that is rear wheel drive, make sure the diff is in very good condition, okay, because you don't want to be driving a car and then in month number 3 they tell you now the diff has a problem. You make sure that it doesn't water. Have you sat in a taxi and it makes a sound when the guy is going downhill or very fast? Ooh, that's the diff telling the guy that I'm tired, the bearings have died, and majority of the times the diffs cannot be repaired, so you just have to buy a new one, and it's not cheap. So you make sure that the diff is in good condition, okay. Yeah, just buy when it's in good condition. I recommend 4-wheel drive. I recommend one that has good AC. Also, the Toyota Nua, if you're not going to drive it for the rest of your life, you're not going to leave that car in your family for your grandchildren and get grandchildren to drive, buy a Nua that has a very good interior, and try as much as possible to maintain the interior in good condition, okay, so that you don't get troubles when trying to resell and upgrade to a better car, because you might want to upgrade in our good motor car with the bad interior and people don't buy it, okay. Remember that Nuas now are the cars people start with, starter cars for families. So you want to buy a car that has good interior and maintain it just like that. I don't think it has any other problem. It's automatic, of course. Make sure the gearbox is good, and also basically check everything without leaving anything to test. So make sure you check everything, check the paperwork, and yeah. The only problem that I've seen people run in with Nuwas is when their battery runs out of charge and they are stuck on the road, and then they have to send someone to bring them a battery, which is sometimes an unplanned expense, and sometimes you really don't have the money, okay? Because then when you're in trouble, people actually overcharge you. So when you buy a car, even the people that are planning to buy cars now, the moment you buy a car, go to Uganda Batteries. And I'm saying this again, go to Uganda Batteries. Don't go to the outlets, okay? That's my experience. Someone will tell you, again, don't go to outlet, it's okay. Me, in Uganda, from what I've experienced, if a factory is in Uganda, buy from the factory. Yeah? When it comes to returns, the factory will serve you better because you bought from them, so you don't have to take back to the supplier over the dealer. Sometimes the dealer will take long, battery, and all that. You don't want all that trouble. So go to Uganda Batteries in industrial area, and I'm not a representative of Uganda Batteries. I'm simply telling you my experiences, okay? Uganda Batteries, and buy your own battery. And you know, Uganda Batteries gives you a guarantee for a full year. In case your battery breaks down, a year from the time you bought it, they give you a new one at no cost. In case it breaks down, there's the way they deduct it, that as the time increases, you top up some money, so you're safe, okay? And their batteries rarely break down. Like the battery I have on this car, I've driven it for a year, and it has, because I had it on the previous car that I had, then I put it on this one, and it's still moving. So just make sure the car is charging properly. The other thing, you want to make sure that the car electronics are working properly. Sometimes you buy cars and the faults that are making the owner sell the car are electronics faults, and those can prove to be a stone in the shoe when you start repairing. Electronics are the most expensive thing to repair on the car. Engines, you can buy another engine and put in, but let me tell you, electronics, it can be one wire that is sorting in the door somewhere, and you call all the wiring guys and you fail to find it, and you end up parking the car. So electronics are very important when you're buying a car, okay? Yeah, basically I think that's it for the Toyota Noah. Someone asked me how expensive is it to replay and replace batteries for the hybrids. I've not even heard of anyone replacing the batteries. They can live a lifetime. They are very expensive to replace, but I've not heard of anyone replacing tires. I've not heard of anyone replacing batteries of the hybrids. They live as long as you, and you know, sometimes you may never even notice. Do you know why? Because the car has both engine and batteries, okay? So it can slowly lose mileage of the fuel, okay, but not that much. And the way I know how we drive, it's very hard to find someone driving a car for more than 10 years. The guys that buy cars in their late 40s. Why do they drive them for a very long time? It's because they really drive the car every day. So they don't really see a problem. They are never really exposed to newer cars. But from my experience and from my research, you can also go and read for yourself. Those batteries they actually never break down. So when you're going to buy a hybrid, and I recommend a Prius because it's a Toyota, for anything, we have a dealer here in Kampala. Okay, we have a Toyota dealer here. So in case of any problem, I'm sure they would be of help. But if you bought a hybrid Volkswagen, you'd actually run into problems, and you don't want to do that. Okay, Robert, I'm glad I answered you very well. And in case you decide to buy a Noah, enjoy. So the batteries never really break down. And Dennis asked me, do you mind the color of the car? Now, when you're buying a car, I said there is a video where I told you that before you buy a car, make sure you have peace in your heart that I want this kind of car, okay, and I'm going to buy it. Now, I'm sure when you're deciding the kind of car you want to buy, you also think about the colors, right? So as you think about those things, think about the colors that you want, okay? It might not be available, but in case you find the color you want, buy it. Don't let it dictate. The people that mind the colors of cars they buy are people that are buying for resale, because they are colors that honestly don't have resale value. It's very hard to find someone that likes red in the market when you're reselling a car. It's very hard to find someone that likes blue, okay? It's very hard to find someone that likes purple. There are those colors. The most popular colors in Uganda are silver, white, black. silver, white, black. Those are the most popular colors. And then there is that golden that's normally on Spacios. Yeah, Spacios normally have the gold. But other than those colors, I'd recommend that if you intend to drive your car for 1 to 2 years and resell and then upgrade to a better car, you buy silver, white, black. And also, you don't buy black in a Primo. That Primo, you don't buy black when you're buying a Primo. Primo goes with silver. And sometimes white, but silver. The Primo old model, you can buy white, okay, and pearl white. But you don't buy red in any color unless you're going to drive it for the rest of your life. Because when they're buying, they'll buy it very cheaply. With Harrier, you can buy black, you can buy white, you can buy silver, okay? Yeah. But you should, if you intend to resell, mind about color. But if you're buying a youthful color, a youthful car, you're going to buy like a Subaru. Black is okay. Because people will buy that the black. They are youths. They like dark colors, okay? If you're buying like a Mark II, you can buy black. People will buy it. But majority of the time, I recommend that you buy the colors that are common on the road. It's not a mistake that those colors are common. White, silver, black. But black doesn't go with all cars. You don't buy black in Spacio and you think you're going to have peace. Okay? And also you need to think about what is the impact of the color when I'm driving. For example, when we have very hot days, black pulls the heat into the car. All the heat. You remember when we're talking about conductors of heat? Now I'm taking you to primary science. Conductors of heat. Now you see like that black Mark II in front of me. When there is a lot of heat, he feels the heat more than the white RAV4 that is going the other side. So when you're buying, you need to consider those things. If you're going to buy a car that doesn't have air conditioning, I would recommend that you buy a bright color that will reflect the sunlight and the heat to go back. But if you're going to buy a car where you gotta have AC, you can buy the black, no problem. But other than that, the bright colors work better in Uganda, and especially for the small cars that normally first-time drivers end up buying. So bright colors will work better for you. White, silver, and sometimes black for specific cars. The Toyota Fielder, you can buy black, okay? But other than that, yeah. Let me see if I have another question. How easy? No, I've answered that. Tell me about Noah 2002 model consumption. I need it for family. I think I've answered that. The consumption is okay depending on who. I personally would not buy a Noah, however comfortable it is. Yeah, I would not. Why? I've seen 2 people complaining about fuel, and one of them was meticulous with maintenance. The rest of them are not. They are careless with maintenance. But if you're the kind of person that doesn't have a lot of money, I would recommend that. Of course, you can buy it if you really want to be high, but I would recommend you go for the Wish, the 1.8cc version. Okay, that's my recommendation. You can choose to do otherwise, but the Wish will be more friendly on fuel. So I would recommend that you go for the Wish and leave the Noah alone. Okay. I'm just checking because my time is up for today. It's already 58 minutes, so I have 1.5 minutes to bounce. Let me see if you have another question. This is the time for you to ask. Thanks. The question on the Noah was well answered. Thank you very much, Brayo. Kindly, if you're watching this, thank you very much. My number is in the description of the channel. You can get my number. Like I said again, I can help you select a car. I know how to check. I know very well how to check, what to look out. I actually have a checklist. With everything that doesn't check out on my checklist, we reduce the money we are buying the car. How efficient can that be? So someone was saying that they help us a lot. Ugandan roads, they help us a lot, especially things that sellers won't tell you. Okay, you're talking about my videos. Yeah, I think I've covered all the questions. 2008 Vitz, buy. That one I don't even have to talk about. You buy 2008 Vitz. Make sure it's a 1.5cc or 1.3. Don't buy the 1.0cc. Just buy. Okay. and make sure you maintain it properly, because the newer models of cars, they run with maintenance. But I have a friend that drives that. I think I should do a review of that particular Vitz one of these days, and we see. But the Vitz buy, I have to conclude now, guys. Someone was saying what? That you told us about the advantage of buying used cars. Are you also going for an old Prius? Now, the reason why I'm not going to buy an old Prius is because they are not common in the market. How many have you seen on the road today? So majority of the people that have their Priuses appreciate them, and because they appreciate them, they don't sell them. Okay, so that's why if I find a used Prius, trust me, and it's selling at about 16 to 18 million, if you see one, by the way, tell me. If you see one, just WhatsApp me. We go check it out together, me and you, and I buy it. So used cars are always better in Uganda, because most of the things that you would not know, most of the problems you would not know if you're buying from the Bon or from Japan, the other person already figured them out and probably repaired them. Okay, sometimes if the Prius had a problem with batteries, that person probably bought new batteries and replaced them. Okay, so you would not face that problem. But if you bought a car from Japan that has faulty batteries, it would be upon you now to replace the batteries. So yes, I would buy. I'm not saying I'm going to buy, but I would buy an old Prius, a used one in Kampala, if I found one. Okay, so if you see one, you find someone selling an old Prius, make sure it's hybrid. I know there are Priuses that are not hybrid, by the way, if you didn't know. So don't get duped because you're just buying a Prius. Make sure that you buy a hybrid Prius. Okay, but I would gladly buy a used Prius here in Kampala if I found one. But majority of the people that have the Priuses don't sell because they are very good on the fuel. So guys, I have to actually bounce. Thank you very much for the question, guys. Kindly do me the favor of sharing this video and all my old videos with friends that would find them useful, and you can comment more questions that I will answer tomorrow. Okay, share the videos, share the channel, recommend the channel to your friends. It would be very helpful for me to get more views and more people to actually follow me and watch me as the time goes on. I hope I've been very helpful in answering your questions. Like I said, again, if you're going to buy a car and you don't know who to trust, you have your mechanic. Like I said, mechanics are good, but they are not your brothers. If a mechanic is going to be offered 500,000 cash just to say to Gule Motoka, trust me, it's very hard for a mechanic that hasn't made 500,000 in the past week to refuse 500,000. I said I charge for my service, but I'll be a very objective person to come and help you check. I don't do it for free. But until then, you don't have to use me though. You can use anyone else. I'll soon give you a list of the checklist that I use so that you can use it in your reference as we buy your cars. But other than that, I'll see you tomorrow, and ciao.